Hey everybody, Brian here with Drooling Moose Hideaway. Sorry, it's been a long day. We didn't get our video up yesterday. We sort of had some equipment problems, so we'll still try to get something and catch up on it. But today's going to be Teaching Tuesday, and we sort of had a topic we were going to do, but the way the day ended up going, we're going to save that topic for another time. So I just want to show you what I'm working on now, and hopefully maybe teach you a little something. I wasn't able to get the video out while we were doing it, but just to tell you basically what we were doing is we're doing something here. It's a little bit of an experiment, and I'm going to explain what we're doing, but we had the kids involved in it and sort of teaching the kids about soil, the difference between dirt and soil, and basically dead soil and live healthy soil, and how we build soil. And so, I mean, basically my view on things is that my job as a homesteader, as a farmer, as a gardener, as a steward of the land is not to do nature's job for it. Nature does a great job on its own. Nature does a better job than we do, which is why we have so many problems with modern agriculture and modern farms and monocultures, because we think we can do it better. And it's just not the case. But what we can do is be good stewards and help nature do what nature already does great, and just make it better, make it faster, and just basically help it. And so that's what we're doing here. I'm going to flip the camera around in just a second and sort of go over what we're doing here. Basically, I'm prepping my beds, some of my garden beds for the spring. And what I'm going about, see, I don't use chemicals. I don't use chemical fertilizers, no pesticides, herbicides, stuff like that. Nature does a great job all on its own. We just got to give it a little bit of a help out. And really, we can do that with a little bit of work and a little bit of knowledge. We don't need the chemicals and everything like that. And so what I'm going to show you is, some of you might be familiar with it. I'm not doing exactly the way that most like textbook ways to do this. Might be a little bit different. And basically what we're doing is we're doing a little bit of experimentation. So I'm setting up several garden beds, and I'm going to be doing it slightly different in each one. I'm going to be taking some different methods from online and some ideas that I've had, and sort of tweaking and playing with some of the other things that you'll see. And so basically we're going to set up sort of different garden beds. They're going to be all in a line, all sort of connected into one thing, but we're going to sort of delineate them so we know which one, what we did with each one, and see what works out the best next year. See which ones give us the best vegetables, or maybe one type of vegetable did better in this bed than another, but another type of vegetable did better this way. And so we're kind of doing a little bit of experimentation. I think that's a great way to go about it. Not just, reading, oh, this is the way it's always been, or just reading some new technique and saying, oh, this, but experiment for yourselves. Look at some other people's ideas. Do it that way. Look at maybe some of the traditional ways, and also throw in some of your own ideas. Try it out. I mean, experiment. You may just find like the next thing that's just awesome and the best way to do it. So again, I'm going to flip the camera around, show you what I'm talking about right now, and try not to make you dizzy. So anyway, so this is the garden bed that we worked at now. I'm not 100% done with it, but what we did was basically a sheet mulch. And we did this particular bed, what we did is we took cardboard we had laying around from packaging and stuff like that we've saved up, flattened it all out, and we laid it on the bottom. In fact, down here you can see the corner of some of my cardboard boxes right there, and laid that out a couple layers thick, and got the cardboard down on there, and we took some water and put it on there and kind of got that cardboard nice and wet. And then what we did is we have unfinished compost. I wouldn't call it fully finished compost, and this is where some of the experimentation is coming in place, because the bulk of the compost we have to use for this is bedding from the chickens and from the turkeys, and we use straw for bedding. Straw is used for mulch a whole lot, and so our compost is a mixture of the chicken waste and the turkey waste and food scraps and all that kind of organic matter we've put in there, and a lot of straw. And so we put down the layer of cardboard is what we did, and then I put a good thick layer of our compost. And this is not what I would call finished compost. We just don't have the time this year. It takes a while to get that finished compost. So what I'm planning on doing is using it as a compost slash mulch, let it finish composting in the ground as we're coming into winter here, and letting that straw act as a mulch. And then what I did is I went over that with, we have all these, the bark shavings from when we shaved the bark. Now, a lot of people say, you know, wood chips, they're awesome, they're the best, do it. And then I've heard some people say, oh no, the tannins in the wood are going to be bad. Those tannins in the wood could act almost as an herbicide and kill, you know, work against you. I don't know. We're doing it with this one because that's sort of one of the conventional things with sheet mulching. Again, we're going to be doing several of these. This is probably, I don't know, 6 foot by 6 foot. Maybe 8 by 8 square, probably closer to 8 by 8 square that we've done here. And then next to it here, we're going to do another one, and we're going to go up here in this area where I know I want to put in some garden beds, and we're going to do it a little differently in each one, and we're going to experiment. We're going to play around, making notes of this is exactly how we did it here. This is what we used. And so this is all those bark peelings. You see me peeling the bark from these logs. I put the bark peelings down, and then wood chips. We're not done going over all the way with the wood chips. And basically these wood chips, what we did is we've got, I may have mentioned this area was logged. This area was logged a few years ago. If you look up here, you can see some of the old logs sitting back here. This actual particular area back here, I'm pretty sure was a staging area before they got loaded onto the trucks, where they cut off a lot of ends of the logs that were a little too long, didn't fit on the truck, and they just cut them off and they left them to drop. And that's 15, 20 years ago. So these logs are sitting there rotting. And so what we did, we broke up a lot of these. So basically this stuff here is sort of like pre-rotted wood chips mulch, and we've sort of come to these logs with sort of some shovels and hammers and stuff, really anything, and just busted it all up, broke it all up, put it in buckets and bringing it over here, and we're going to spread that over here. Now as for the teaching part, so I was explaining it to my kids. I was going to bring the video out. We weren't sure if it was going to rain. It's still kind of looking like rain here. I know we're supposed to get some eventually. For those of you that don't know, so the theory behind the sheet mulching. So we basically, here's how I broke it down for my kids. And let me come sit down here. I'll turn the camera around so you're just not looking at the dirt more. Here's how we broke it down for the kids. We put it in real simple terms. That they can understand. So I'm going to give the same lesson I gave them, because maybe some of you don't know the difference between dirt and soil. Don't know the purpose of putting cardboard and all this wood and stuff like that down. So I'm going to try to break it down simple. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a professional gardener. I feel like a scientist because of the experimentation I'm doing, and that's sort of the scientific approach. I don't think you have to be a scientist to do science. And that's kind of what it is. It's kind of a science project. We're experimenting. We're trying different things. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't work. And so here's how I explained it to my kids. I came over, well, first of all, this property was logged 15, 20 years ago, something like that. They pretty much clear cut it. They, for all intents and purposes, destroyed this property. And it was just left alone. And Mother Nature did what Mother Nature does. It took over, and now we have, you can see, you know, forest here. It's a young forest, but it's forest nonetheless around here. And so we took that. I sort of explained how that goes, that it doesn't need a person. You don't need a person for things to grow, for life to take hold, for trees to grow, for, you know, all this stuff going on. But what we can do is we can help it out. We can accelerate it. We can help nature do what it does better. And for those of you that might be, you know, people of faith, I think that's really what it gets to in Genesis, where, you know, God basically puts Adam in control of the land and the animals, and all this was not necessarily to command them and master them, but to manage them, to be good stewards, to help them, to basically take what he created and simply tend to it. And so that's the approach I take, is, and I think, again, that's the problem with these chemical fertilizers and monocropping and all this stuff, is we've taken nature and tried to fit it into a box. We've tried to basically be the boss and control it. And when that happens, things go out of sync, things go out of whack, because God made this beautiful, elaborate, just so many things going on in 1 square centimeter of dirt, let alone a whole forest or the whole world. And we can't even fathom everything that's going on. And so when we go in and we try to completely take control and do it, for nature, things end up, we end up taking pieces of the puzzle away, ruining things. We end up messing it up. And so what we do, and one reason I do subscribe to the ideas of permaculture and food forests and some of the organic principles and stuff like that, is that to simply observe nature and see what nature does, and then replicate that. And not even replicate that, but help it. Some of it's replication. So basically, what is dirt? Dirt is just dirt. It's dead. Dirt itself is dead. It's just tiny little granules of basically sand and clay and rock, and I mean that's what it is. It's dirt. There's nothing alive in it. Soil is alive. Soil has. I took a scoop. It's hard to do on camera with what I'm set up right now, but if you just take a scoop of dirt and then take a scoop of dirt of soil from inside the forest here, and I showed the kids, look what we did by coming in here and cutting the trees down and walking around and putting things around. What we've done is we've destroyed the soil, we've killed it. And that's unfortunately a necessary evil. It's just something we've had to do. But now it's our job to help nature come back again, and to take over and build good soil again and grow things. And by giving it, the plants the food that they need, and encouraging the earthworms and the mycorrhizal fungi and all the different bacteria and all that stuff that's in the soil. And so that's what we're doing. And basically what this sheet mulching is going to do is the purpose of it. Hey, Lexi, stop. Sorry. Is to basically take what nature does, what this forest does, right? If I left this patch of dirt alone, that we've come in here, we've cut everything down, we've compacted the soil, not much growing in it because of that, it gets tramped on, whatever. If I left this alone over the course of 20 years or something like that, we may still, you'd start getting where, plants be coming up, trees would start be growing and stuff like that. And you'd notice the difference in the soil would be uncompacted. It would start getting dark, and that's because you have the leaves. Trees drop limbs, trees drop twigs, trees drop all these leaves. In the fall, all of the foliage and vegetation and that underbrush dies, and it falls down, and it all gets in there, and then the worms and the bugs move in, and the forest slowly creeps back out as it basically fixes that space. And so what we're doing is we're mimicking that. We're doing it in a short period of time. Instead of waiting years for the biomass that I've just put down in this garden plot, we did it in a course of a couple hours. And the point is doing it now, letting it sit for the rest of the fall, letting it sit over winter, the snow on top of it, and the melt and the runoff, and as we come into spring, we should hopefully have some good rich soil. And basically, don't be afraid to experiment, because honestly, as long as you're not spraying chemicals and stuff like that, you can't screw it up. You can't make it worse. Usually, if you're dealing with basically dead compacted soil, honestly, this spring, if you came here and took a scoop of this, it'd be dark and rich and black, and now it's kind of dirt. There's some life there. It doesn't die off that quickly, but we basically are trying to fix what we did, and 2, make it better than before. And be able to grow our vegetables in our garden and start planting some of the perennials and stuff like that around here. And so we're doing these small patches, a little bit at a time, and we are experimenting. And so we're going to see, we're going to lay it out and kind of show you what we've done at each one. And then in the spring, we're going to go back through and see what it looks like when we plant. And then when we harvest next year, let's see which ones are taking off. Let's see which ones did well and produce the best stuff for us. And then we can sort of take that idea. Okay, this is what we did here. Now, what can we do to maybe take what we did and make it even better next year? And so that's what we're doing. And so what the cardboard does, you put down the cardboard. One, it's going to hold moisture. Cardboard will hold water in there pretty good, and it's going to break down rather quickly, quicker than wood. But it's also worms love cardboard and stuff like that. It's going to break down quick. It's going to be good, and it's going to get that carbon right into the soil pretty quick. A good shock of carbon into there, and then we have the compost. It's almost like a compost. It's an unfinished compost in a way, but it's still a good compost. And so basically, it's a compost / mulch kind of mixed in. If you took compost and mixed it in with mulch, like a straw mulch, that's what you get. And so we've put that on there and really get a lot of that. Those nutrients and everything seeping down through there and getting in and mixing in with that, basically the decomposing, the cardboard that's breaking down, and then the wood chips over top. Basically, it's twofold. Big reasons why. Oh, the other reason, the cardboard. And I showed the kids. If I took a cup of water right now, we have a bit of a slope. If I took a cup of water right now and I poured it out on the ground, it's hard, it's compacted, and it runs right off. And then I showed them where I poured tons of water, a bucket of water, in where we had this cardboard. None of the water ran off. That cardboard holds it in there and lets it actually infiltrate into the ground, which is going to break up and loosen that soil. It's going to let the worms start coming up in there and breaking that earth up and everything, and start processing some of the compost that we have there. And so, and then we go over the top with wood chips. The wood chips help keep the wind from eroding. Everything helps keep things from washing away. Again, they hold a ton of moisture. That stuff, it's especially the stuff that's kind of half rotten already. It's spongy, and it just soaks in that water when it rains and holds it in there and just lets it infiltrate rather than running off. And of course, it's going to break down, add carbon to it as well. And this way, in the spring, the hope is we sort of peel back where we want to plant these plants. We peel back and we kind of open up in between in what's left of this mulch. And that soil should be nice and loose. It should be dark. It should be crawling with earthworms, and you should be able to see the different fungi and everything just lacing through it. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. And good rich soil. And then I forgot where I was going with that. I'll be completely honest. But that's the plan. Is that's what's going to happen as we continue to break down and infiltrate. And there's no tilling. One of the biggest things I tell people, like, you garden, is don't till your garden. Stop it. Stop tilling your garden. Whatever you do, stop tilling your garden. The reason is, every time you till a garden, you're losing probably close to 80% of your your microbes and just living organism, or your organic things that are living in that soil, because you're taking them up out of their nice, warm, moist homes where they're living and they're growing and they're doing great, and you're ripping them up and exposing them to heat and sunlight, and they fry and they die. And you're killing that every time you till your garden. Now, why do people till their garden? Well, there's a couple reasons people till their garden. And I think the main reason is because they don't know any better, and that's just what you're supposed to do, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come in and till it up, right? because that's what we've done for a long time. And the second reason is they want to loosen compacted soil. Their soil is compacted and hard and can't plant anything in it, and their plants can't put their roots down. That's why we do things like sheet mulching, and we sheet mulch ahead of time. And so I should have absolutely no problem being able to scoop that dirt out in the spring by hand, where we've done it right. If I come up to a bed where I can't do that, well, then we did something wrong, and let's not do that next time. That soil should be loose. You should be able to just reach in and pull handfuls of it out. That's what you're looking for. And without disturbing the soil, without pulling it up and tilling it and flopping it over and letting the heat and the sun and the UV and everything and the wind in the rain washing it away and just killing all those microorganisms that are living in your soil, all that stuff that you need, that your plants love, that just provide all those nutrients. So that's what we're doing here. I'd seriously, for you gardeners, maybe this sounds kooky, maybe it sounds crazy, maybe you've heard some of the conventional wisdom that just doesn't work. If you're a gardener, take a small section. Take a small section and try it. Right now is a good time. If you've got some compost and some wood chips, some sort of mulch, everyone's got cardboard now. If you shop on Amazon, you've got more cardboard and you know what to do with, right? Lay down some cardboard, throw some compost on top of that, and then some wood chips. And if you really want to get crazy, which I'd like to do, I just don't have enough of the raw materials, is do a second layer of that. More cardboard, more compost, and then more wood chips on top, or straw, or whatever. Play with it. Experiment. The worst that can happen is really nothing. I mean, there's nothing in this that's going to make your soil worse. Really, I mean, there's what do you have to lose? So, if it doesn't work or you don't like it, you go back to tilling your garden and throwing Miracle-Gro on it. Or, the idea that you need to till in your compost or your manure, or your fertilizer. Again, setting it up ahead of time in the fall after you've harvested. And that's the other thing too. For you guys that have a garden, you say you have tomato plants, not tomato pants. I guess, I mean, if that's your thing, tomato pants, go for it. If you have tomato plants, for example, you pick the tomatoes, you still have the rest of the tomato plant. What do you do with it? Chop it and drop it. Just let it lay. Cut it down and let it lay in the garden. And then throw some cardboard over it. And then throw some compost over it. And then throw some wood chips over it. And then the next year, that garden plot's going to be, you peel back, if you really want to, you could pull, I guess, all of it back. There's no reason to do that. You just make little holes. Wherever, okay, I'm going to put a plant here. And you kind of scoop out, make a little hole, plant it in there, fill it back in. There you go. Go to the next one. It's going to hold moisture. It's going to protect that wood chips on top. Also makes a protective barrier, again, against the sun and the heat and the wind that are going to basically kill off the microorganisms that you have going on in your compost and in the soil. It's a protective barrier on top. Think of it almost like a shield. And it is breaking down and adding more carbon to your soil as well, which is always, good. So anyway, just wanted to stop and do this quick video. I'll show you the garden bed again real quick so you can get another look at it, see what we did. Right over here, again, garden bed, and I'll show you the layers here. Cakes have layers, onions have layers. So we have our layer of cardboard right here, and that's wet. And actually what I did is I actually left this cardboard out and got rained on a couple times, so it's already sort of just soft and floppy. And then then we have our sort of our compost straw mix right here. And then here's where we've done the shavings from the bark. I had them sitting everywhere, and Molly said, I'm sick of them laying everywhere. And I said, well, let's use them here. Let's see if we can do that. And then of course over here, where we've done this, we've added that other layer. And this is nice because this is already mostly broken down. It's already been sitting in the ground, rotting. It's totally usable for this. It's spongy, like you just pick it up. It's wet. I could probably wring water out of it. Lay that on there, holds the soil. It's going to break down. It's going to protect, act like that shield against the sun and the heat and the wind that are going to kill your soil microbes. Anyway, This is Brian with Drooling Moose Hideaway. This is Teaching Tuesday. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just a dude, and we're just experimenting here. And let's see what works out good, what doesn't. We're gonna let you know if this worked out good, or another approach we did worked out better, or if it ended disastrously. I honestly don't see how it could go wrong. I may not have the results as good as I'd like, but seriously, I'm not going to make it any worse than this compacted dirt that I have right now that honestly we've created and now we have to fix. So, and we knew that going in. It's not like, oops, we didn't realize we were going to destroy the soil. That's just the way it is when you come in and clear land like we have. And anyway, so go learn something. Hopefully you learned something today. Go do something. Maybe look into working on your garden beds, prepping an area, experiment a little bit. If you got an idea from what I did here where you think maybe you say you're an idiot and you're wrong, well, you know what? I challenge you. Here's the challenge. If you think I'm an idiot and I'm wrong the way I did it, I want you to get a patch of your yard, a patch of your garden. I don't care if it's just a couple feet square. Do it your way, and in the spring, let's compare notes. Anyway, go get something done. Remember to hit subscribe, like. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And have a good day, guys. Thanks.